Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I have a lot of questions over on the forum, so I don't know if I'll be taking live Twitch questions this week, but it's been a busy week. Been playing a lot of MapleStory 2 this week, and in fact, I just had to put it down right now in order to record this. So that's why there hasn't been too much content. I do have some Let's Play videos recorded, but I've been spending a lot of time off stream taking care of some other stuff, man. I've had so many, like, random responsibilities pop up off stream this last week on top of MapleStory 2. I just leave it auto-fishing or auto-performing half the time. They gave me enough vouchers for it, so why not? But anyway, just wanted to say that's why there hasn't been too many YouTube videos on that side. I did actually get a duty recorder of 012, so I now have the footage I need to make the 012 guide to actually finish it. So I'm actually making use of the duty recorder feature for a guide for once. Anyway, before we get started though, just a quick shout out to our sponsors over on Le Patreon. They've been supporting through hashtag demonetized. It makes me feel bad whenever I have these stints of like less videos where there's like 3 or 4 videos in a week instead of like 7 or 8, especially when there's some stuff happening that I could totally make some videos on that. But I want to thank them for being awesome, of course, all the same. We have our patrons of light, those who go above and beyond in regard to their support for the stream. We, of course, have Khuja Cross on Jenova. You're used to them because they always provide a picture. On the Twitch side, you guys don't get to see the picture. You'll have to go to the YouTube side in order to see the picture they submitted for this week. Thank you for being a patron of light, but we now have 2 patron of lights. You'll know that if you saw State of the Realm this week. We have Kernai Oni, who has been on the premium list for some time, and he sent him way up in order to get onto the patron of light list as well. So thank you to them as well for going, again, above and beyond. More so than many of you on YouTube know. If you've been watching the Twitch stream, that name is a little too familiar to you if you frequent a lot of the Final Fantasy XIV streamers. But we also, of course, have a ton of other sponsors as well. We have our standard sponsors. We have Dark Lumina from Jenova. We have Marianne. We have Nye-rick and Kaiya Amatsuki of Midgard-Sormer. Remil Gaming, Sabo Empire, Mizra, Red Wings of Baron FC from Zalera, Fray Blackheart on Shiva, Syd Hellwind from Gilgamesh, Afro Ninja from Malboro, Cheesecake from Leviathan, That Lame Weeb, Ashen Emiya of Cerberus, Fafarian, Rendil, Giraffeswillrule, Stevie-Rex, and Neon. We have our elite sponsors. We have Carol, Ray, Senchi, Shadowlink on Tonberry, Dom, Asuka Wake from Jenova. Hey, I recognize that name. That person just subbed to me on Twitch like 10 minutes ago. Thank you. Lamelianella of Midgard-Sormer, Sarah and the Fennel family, Janhyua Yotsuyu, Kifkin the Grey Eagles on Exodus, Dark Graver, Katayoshi from Khuja, Skia Symphonia from Ragnarok, Rah Xephon from Exodus, Rynoet West Sauce the Purple Warrior, Nye-rick Red Seal on Exodus, Lexxie Valentine, Mantaru the Rivivus FC from Zodiac, Sour Cream and Chives from Jenova, Rynoet Chikara, Goisha Valfar of Siren, Hirsch vs. Fairy, Phoenix Down FC on Goblin, and Saren from Zodiac. Then we have our premium sponsors. We have Jonathan Shinka, Casual Heroes on Midgard-Sormer, Tatach Tak on Hyperion, Kena Azuki of Jenova, Starla on Coral, Sathal, Sarah Frost from Behemoth, Diablo, Holy Tabasco, Red Thorn and Sarah, Askin Hawk, Crash 015, Mustang, Serenity FC on Ultras, Cat Kazuma, Serial Kira on Cactar, Ignis Vagrant from Excalibur, Valestra Fanfrit, Not Quarters from Excalibur, Corvus Moonscar, Pipe and Mikey, Spike, Nani Karasami, Rudy Rudiger, Tin Colossus, Killer Hackman, Roll Jr., and Killtastic Jones. So thank you for all of the names. It's a lot of names, it's a lot of support. So thank you for sponsoring our content over here on YouTube. But anyway, let's get started. We've got 13 questions, and I don't know if I'll have time for Twitch questions. So let's get through these first. Alright, question number 1 over on the forums. Hi, Haps. Hello. With 5.0 getting closer and closer, Square Enix will soon introduce new abilities for each job. The possibilities that tanks and healers will get new abilities that boost their roles as tanks and healers pretty high. But how much is enough? Aren't tanks' current defensive CDs already suitable for all situations, as well as healers currently having and their healing abilities? Thanks. So it's probably less about new and more about how they're going to rework the old stuff, because we saw a lot of that with the other jobs. It wasn't so much about the new skills they got from 60 to 70 until they came out, and then we saw them, and it was like, holy crap, Dark Knight's unplayable till 68. And more about what they're going to do to the job overall. And this is something I've expressed a lot of fear over, because some jobs like Bard, for example, I feel like they hit the perfect note with Bard in its current iteration. I'm frightened to death about how they'll change it or add new things or what they'll do with Bard altogether. It's just so perfect. I don't want to see it like get changed all too much, but I don't know, man. It's like, it's just not about new abilities. It's a lot about how old abilities are going to be reworked, and hopefully we'll see some stuff consolidated or I don't know, just adjusted altogether so they have room for new skills altogether. I'm a big person who's in favor of traits changing current skills into new skills as opposed to adding new buttons to press. So, you know, maybe something that changes I don't know. I don't have any really good examples off the top of my head. Maybe something that changes. I don't know. We'll go with the Goring Blade into Goringer Blade. It's what I got. You understand what I'm saying, okay? It's just an example. It's not going to happen that way. But that's what I'm looking to happen in the next expansion more so than anything else. All right, question number 2. Hey, how you doing? Finger guts. Hey. We're now entering that time in an expansion's life cycle where we're looking to FanFest for more information on unannounced expansions, or on the unannounced expansion. Beyond the standard questions about new jobs, story arcs, and areas to explore, what do you feel 14's most pressing issues, and what would you like to see them address? Now, I know we have story jump potions now, but I do think the consolidation of the story quests is one of the most major pressing issues the game has. I also feel that the general gameplay patterns of the early game could be better presented in a way that it's more exciting earlier on. Right now, a lot of the jobs don't really function properly until they get to at least 60. And again, like I said with Dark Knight, some of them not even until right before max level. It'd be nice for certain functionalities to be introduced earlier so people can get a feel for like what makes that job that job. Like blood should be something that a Dark Knight that learns at 30. And it should be something they become familiar with certain skills from 30 onward. So both the story quests and the way that the early game actually plays, so new players feel a bit more involved, are actually the two things I'd say are the most pressing issues for Final Fantasy XIV currently. You could say, oh, that's, it's always the even-numbered patches of the raids and odd-numbered patches 24-man. And you could say the pattern. I don't think that's the problem. They keep doing it because it's worked up to this point, because people keep playing no matter how much they complain about, oh, it's the same patch cycle again. Oh, I think I'll come back for the new expansion and then log in for every even patch for the next however many years. That's just how it is. So it's those are what I think it is. So you think bleeding calls out for burn is to fall into a routine. Yeah. So for you, it actually, I didn't even read the next part. It is the routine. That's why I do things like treasure maps, because it breaks up the routine and I don't have to do the whole like expert roulette raid on Tuesday thing. Like I have some stuff to mix it up, or hunts and stuff like that. As for new content, see part of the routine, I still want to see them do better with the content they implemented already. I want to see more interesting treasure maps. I think the wheel was a good start. And I want to see the deep dungeons do more interesting stuff. They didn't really take enough liberties with Heaven on High, and I'd like to see them get a little more creative with it. Question number 3. Hey, Mr. Haps, how you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. It's been a while, so I have a bonus of no duty actions in the next raid tier. Yeah, we got it in this raid tier, so I'm already a win. It's already a win for me. My question is a bit of an easy one. I'm main paladin, and I'm shit at raiding, but I want to get better. I don't want to get into hardcore raiding. I've been playing for 2.5 years, and I feel like I suck. So what tips could you give me? So you're a paladin. So one of the most interesting things about paladin in terms of progression rating is that they have a lot of versatility in terms of dealing with tank busting mechanics. One of the big things that separates it kind of a good paladin from a great paladin, other than of course the DPS you're able to output, is how well you actually use those tools. One of the most useful things for avoiding needing to do tank swaps or not having to worry about cooldowns on a main tank is cover. A lot of tank busters, a paladin will cover and use a cooldown on themselves. And then you don't need to tank swap. You eliminate a lot of the threat that's actually on the main tank. They're not going to be taking damage for several seconds. And it can make life easier. Now, that doesn't work on everything, but being able to recognize when things like intervention cover or even using hallowed ground to completely bypass mechanics are things that can really make you stand out. A good example on 09 Savage. In my guide, we have each of the tanks take one of the tethers. Pretty common thing to do. What you can do instead is have someone like a paladin, or, even a warrior, as long as they can actually get in a position for home gang, they can intercept both tethers on their own and use tank invincibility skill. And using things like that, or thinking of ways to use things like that, is a really great way to make yourself stand out amongst other raiders. So, on top of that, working on your rotations is, of course, a big thing. Working on your cooldown rotations is a big thing. Being mindful of how long it is between major tank busters and being able to communicate that with your team when you're going to need extra things in order to help with those cooldowns. But it's generally just learning to play the game. It's no different than any other content. It's just you're doing it in a more strict scenario where making mistakes is a lot more punishing than the rest of the game is. So as long as you can take that mentality and work on improving, then you won't suck. You're just going to overthink it and make yourself think you suck more than you do. So just get into it and get your feet wet. You should be okay. All right, question number 4. Ayo, Mr. Happy, how you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Long-time viewer and first-time asker, so please enjoy the bonus of a fantastic day for you. been a good day so far. It's Maple Story 2. I got 30 of my dungeons done on my Berserker. I'm doing alright. When 4.4 dropped, I was asked to sub for my good friend Static during their Prog and Alpha Savage for a few weeks. Please note that I'm nowhere near an amazing player like most of the Savage. If you think most of the Savage community are amazing players, that shows how much you don't know about the Savage community. Go to the Party Finder. Oh, man. That's fun. I'm just an average player trying to occasionally pug his way through the tiers. Let's see. I managed to clear the last tier as a DPS tank and a healer. That doesn't sound average or shit to me at all. Most people... I don't even clear it on all 3 rolls. Dude, you're rocking it, son. Stop selling yourself short. During our Alpha Prog, we managed to down 09, 010 Savage with me on healer, and this Monday cleared 11 with me as a tank. Dude, I think you're selling yourself short here. I think you're doing alright. I was incredibly happy and proud that I could be part of the prog. As soon as we left the instance, someone said that he uploaded the run to FF Logs. Party started talking about reaching blue and almost purple. One person said he is trash because he was green. Looked at that log, and as the warrior, dealt 4200 would put me in 9th gray percentile. The only gray of the party. I played it safe, didn't die, did the mechs properly. Yeah, if it's your... So you're saying it was your first clear? You can't look at that shit on your first clear. Especially if they've actually been getting loot for weeks and you haven't. That's going to play a big role. That's one of those things that you just gradually work on. I'll be saying, listen, you're doing 4200 DPS. I'll be happy because in pugs, you don't always get so lucky with tanks actually doing over 4k DPS. It's not uncommon for pug tanks to do sub 4k DPS and, you know, still get past it with that. So, I'd say, listen, as long as you're willing to improve, the fact that you're doing it on multiple rolls is a sign of a raider who's over-prepared. So I think you just keep looking at these numbers, worrying about first clears, worrying about what other people are saying, and not worrying about yourself enough. You're thinking too much about other things, and not about how you could be doing better or how you could be playing. So focus on that, because you did the mechanics right. Now you know how to do all of them. You focused on getting that down. Now you focus on how do I improve my DPS. Bam. And everything will improve from that point on. That is kind of, and then your actual question is, what is your definition of a good 14 player? What you're describing your situation is. You're concerned about improving your parse and doing better. You did the fight to perfection in terms of mechanics, and you're doing it on multiple rolls, so you understand it from every roll possible. Like that is above and beyond what most people will do. I don't even do that. I'll look at how other people do it, but I won't do it as a tank or a healer. So that's a big thing. I think you kind of just hit all the points for what a good an above average Final Fantasy XIV player would do. So being open-minded, being willing to improve. That's it. You're a good 14 player if you can do those things, and you've got that. So keep at it, because I think you're underselling yourself a little bit, and you could, even if you could improve, the idea that you want to or think you can is good. All right, question number 5. Hey, Haps, you doing all right? I am doing all right. I'm glad you said I'm doing all right twice, because you asked and then told me I was. Got a Eureka/QA question. What do you think the difference is between the level sync exploit and the Ungermax exploit? Because I've heard a majority of players defending level sync exploit and Pagos saying it's the way the devs intended us to do Pagos. Okay, I wouldn't go that far. Some people calling for players to be permabanned over Ungermax. At what point does an exploit become game-breaking? So one of the big things about Ungermax is it took something that was never intended to be used outside of its place in content and use it in such a way that was basically not allowed by the game. Ungermax was only supposed to be available to squadrons, and it was designed in every way to only be used in that place. Between what it actually provides for the party, as well as, I guess, the location and the intent of how it would be used. Whereas with the level syncing thing, you can do this anywhere in the world where there's a fate. You could go to South Shroud and do this exact same thing. And it's just the way the game works. The game gives you 2 seconds or so after you kill an enemy before rewarding you. You're syncing in between that time. And that's it. You've been able to do that for 5 years, and it's no secret. People have done it in the past for other various reasons. The only difference is this way is in such a piece of content that has been so controversial that it almost has to be controversial by nature, because it's in Eureka, because it's in Pagos itself. So that's what kind of stops it. On top of that, it's a matter of, I guess, what kind of content it's affecting as well. Ungermax was used to completely bypass raids and just make DPS checks a complete joke because it provides so much to the actual party. Whereas something like the level sync thing is something that you're doing solo, something that's not affecting other players unless they're also doing it and you're trying to share the camp with them. And it's in Eureka, of all places, like a very non-competitive area. It's more complaining than competitive. So there's a lot of things that separate the two. It's the intent, it's how it's being used, where it's being used, and what type of content it's being used on. So It's in Pagos. That's the one place where it's most useful. I doubt we see any change to it because it wouldn't... It's not about changing... You have to change something on a system level, like on a very deep level with the game that's been there for 5 years to fix this. I don't see them doing it. I think they'll just be like, cool, people find a solo way to do it. Awesome. They have another option, and I think they'll never hear about it again after we stop talking about it. All right, question number 6. Hi, Haps. How you doing? You doing all right? I'm doing all right. First time asking 2 questions in a row. Oh, you mean back to back? I was going to say, you're not the person who asked the previous question. So my bonus is still on cooldown and sending good vibes. You don't owe me a bonus anyway. Last week I commented in passing in the fact that I didn't have a ring from the last raid tier, so the first thing I bought in my Genesis Tomes was a 390 ring. For someone who went into 4.4 at full 370, what order would you recommend purchasing Tombstone gear in? In the last tier, I bought the cheaper things first to boost my item level quick, but I've seen many people who saved and bought their torso. Does this give you any tactical advantage? So the big thing is when you're spending Tombstones, you want to look at how many stats you get per Tombstone expenditure and what kind of stats you are getting. For example, when you purchase a ring, yeah, maybe you don't have the ring and that's the biggest item level boost for you, which could end up being the most stats you could obtain for your expenditure. But you also have to look, if I spend this now, I can't get this next week. Maybe my body gives me X amount more strength, X amount more vitality. Maybe my body piece is like crit direct hit, whereas my previous tier body piece was like determination, skill speed, and it's like a massive increase over it. And generally the torso, the legs, and the weapons are where you get the most single piece stat increases across all the pieces you could buy. It doesn't always work out to be the best. Some people have terrible torsos and legs, and then it starts to be a question, well, maybe I should buy 2 accessories in that time, or maybe like boots and gloves, or boots and an accessory, or something like that. And at times that can actually work out to being more. It really depends on what the previous raid tier's gear was and what the current tombstones are actually providing. What is the most common, though, is you save for week 2, you go for body legs. If you're not going to beat 012 Savage, or the most recent Savage fight within the first 3 weeks, but you'll beat the tier 2 and tier 3 bosses, and you get the stuff for the weapon, then you'd wait for week 3 to have 1,000 tombstones and get the weapon instead on the 3rd week. So depends on how much you're raiding, depends on how much access you're getting to loot, specifically with the weapon drops. And then if none of that's happening and you're just getting tombstone stuff, body or legs first. Question number 7. Hey, Haps, you doing alright? I'm doing alright. You doing alright? I'm doing alright. Long time lurker and viewer, first time ask yourself a bonus of more time for all the cool stuff you want to do. Does that mean more time to do my Maple Story 2 dailies? Hey, I noticed in your last Mondays with Mr. Happy, you were sporting an ArenaNet t-shirt. Yeah, I worked with ArenaNet a little bit a few years ago when Heart of Thorns came out. Heart of Thorns disappointed me so much, though, I just couldn't stick with it. It says, Guild Wars 2 is my second favorite MMO after 14. I'm curious if you think Square Enix should have taken some inspiration from Guild Wars 2 for their open world or their open world zones, but still instanced. I think the only thing when it comes to Guild Wars 2 that I'd like to see 14 replicate is the effect that those events have on the actual zone. The only place we have that in the game, I think, right now is South Shroud, where that little camp that's to the north of Quarry Mill, like, it's either open or it's not. I think all that limits is whether or not you can buy a minion. It's like, it's just such an irrelevant change across, like, the actual scope of the map itself, and I want more map impact. It kind of sucks, though, if you, like, obviously, oh, I need that camp to do this, but the camp's not available. But with us moving into Garlemald territory, I feel like we're getting set up for something like that. And I hope that of all the things that they can take, at least to some degree, not to the extreme, because Heart of Thorns got way too extreme with how much you could access the map based on the actual presence of the different fights or the actual exploration goals you had done. But I think to a smaller degree, that's something Final Fantasy XIV could learn from it. A massive world bosses, honestly, I don't find them very fun in Guild Wars 2. You either roll over them because everyone's very well prepared, or you get into a channel or an instance where there's not enough people doing it, and it's a bit of a struggle. I feel like I've never had like a happy medium somewhere with Guild Wars 2 world bosses, so I feel like that's just something that that's pretty consistent with world bosses altogether in pretty much any game. So I will say, I mean, the Tecatl fight was a fun one, but it was only fun once, and then it was either, like I described, everyone rolled over it, or there wasn't enough people in the instance and it went to shit. So it's And Heart of Thorns, it was a pretty impressive, like, visually, the final fight, but it wasn't very fun, that final fight where you're hopping all over the platform. So I didn't particularly care for that one either, and it was a hell of a time. But, yeah, not to say you can't do it different and do it right in your game, or do it in a way that's better and you could take the idea and try to improve on it. I don't think they will. That's it. I just don't think they will. So, yeah, just applying actual world events shaping the actual zone is the one thing I like to see them take away from Guild Wars 2. Also, improve our jumping mechanics so we can get more Guild Wars 2 style jumping puzzles, because those things are fucking dope. Alright, question number 8. Greetings, Mr. Happy. I'm a long-time follower. This is my first time asking a question. Thank you for all your trial and savage guides. They have helped me through many tough situations as Titan Extreme. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. My question is as follows. Why is the dev team so reluctant to change something that has near universal negative feedback? More specifically, I've always have been a white mage player. So we're going with lilies. Yep, I see the word lilies. That is my main job. Lilies were criticized well before Stormblood was released, and were still dunked on long after their release. Not to mention the completely worthless trait, Secret of the Lilies 2, Electric Boogaloo. We can only hope they will actually change them. You know how they can change them in 5.0? Get rid of them. Not every job needed a job gauge. Just because you decided that you wanted to add job gauges doesn't mean every job needed to be spoon-fed one for no reason. Lilies being the perfect example of that. Why wait that long? Because they weren't really inhibiting the job. They were just pointless, is the thing. So it's just like one of those traits where you have it and you benefit from it, but you don't really care or interact with it. So that's the main reason why they probably just got completely ignored the entire expansion, because it was functional. It wasn't interesting, but it was functional. It was same with plenary. You know, like plenary stacks are now plenary stacks work a little bit better. Our white mage plans his plenary stacks and uses them super efficiently, but it was still such a weird thing, and it didn't really feel well thought out. Again, Bard is the job I feel like whoever worked on that thought it out the most, and white mage is one of the ones I feel like they thought about the least. So I don't know. I don't know what they'll do, and I don't know why they had to wait that long, but it's what they decided on, and it's kind of just the cards we've been dealt at this point. So yeah, that's all I got, man. I don't work for them, so I don't know. All right, question number 9. Hi, Mr. Happy. Hi. I hope you're doing well and had a great weekend so far. I did. My girlfriend made some beef stew. It was delicious. We got some more food that she's cooking. It's over the week, and I like food, so it means it's a good weekend, yeah. Because of some real-life commitments, haven't been able to do the Stormblood, Deltascape, or Sigmascape Savage, so I don't have much Savage raiding experience. I've been looking forward to getting into doing Savage raids with Alphascape, and I'm not able to pour hours into the game at the moment, but I have been doing 09 Savage whenever possible since 4.4 launched. The Party Finder parties haven't been able to get a clear. I think Sly just got his Waffle House clear, as he likes to call it, last night. I know the fight well by now, and have seen plenty in rages, but the damage just doesn't seem to be enough to get him down. I play Warrior, and except for the pull, I can manage to stay in Deliverance the whole fight without any issues. Honestly, if you do the pull right, you can even stay in Deliverance there. But I digress. My question is, what does it actually take to get a clear in 09 Savage and other Savage raids? It requires people with eyes, and I'm not convinced everyone has them. With eyes and hands, or feet, or anything that can press buttons. They're dick. I don't care. Just flop your face on the keyboard. Just, I don't know. Just look. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. It's a problem because for me, it's second nature. So I don't have a fair answer to this. I'm like, okay, that mechanic works like that. Okay, I'll do it like that. Okay, we should position like this. Like, that's my first thought when I see anything. And when I know a mechanic is coming, okay, this is the tank's responsibility to do this way. Let's say the tank was just facing the boss the completely wrong way. I'm looking where the tank is because I know if that mechanic hits me, I'm dead, even if it's not supposed to be aimed in my direction. Other people will be like, I am standing here, and I don't give a fuck what happens. If I die, and it's the other person's fault, oh well, I will do nothing to save myself from this situation. Or, oh my god, this mechanic that came out 3 seconds ago is about to hit me in the next second, and I haven't been paying attention this whole time. It's, people just don't pay attention. That's all it requires. Paying attention. That's it. Spatial awareness, as chat has been putting it. And I'm not convinced the Party Finder quite has that. Not all the time. It's pretty bad. Obviously, eating food using potions and learning rotations, yeah. Playing Final Fantasy XIV is pretty much those three things that consist of it. But what makes the difference is paying attention. And I feel like the Party Finder just doesn't have that most of the time. So you'll win when everyone's paying attention. And that's it. Question number 10. Hi, Happy. You've answered one of my questions on Twitch before. Hey, like I said, I don't know if we'll do Twitch questions this week because I got a lot of questions here and I'm running late. It's my first time posting here, so I have a bonus of your favorite NA team making it out of groups. So little did we know I got my wish. We didn't expect it, but I got my wish already as of this recording, so good job, C9. Recently came across a video of Momo and some others formatting 01 Savage. Well, obviously it's a pretty big discredit to the original balanced job of the fight. Looked more like a casual eyes, like a decent proof of concept for successful 4-man Savage content, something that many of us have been wanting for a while. Having half as many of every archetype significantly increases damage and healing requirements for each player, and the other relative mechanical simplicity of 01 Savage starts to look engaging instead of boring due to the fact pressing the need for uptime and damage avoidance. My question, which you can hopefully answer without having to actually watch the video yet, because I know a video. I have Momo followed on YouTube, so I know which video you're referring to. If you think challenging 4-man content can be properly tuned without becoming too reliant on certain comps or too easy to desire accommodate all jobs, would a level of mechanical difficulty similar to Alt-Roy, but with all jacked up requirements present here, be a successful recipe? So 4-man Savage content is a bit of a tough spot, because you may increase... See, here's the thing. The only reason why they need to do all that is because the content wasn't designed for 4 people. That's why they have to put that much effort into doing something that, like 01 Savage, which is otherwise a pushover, because it wasn't designed for 4 people. When something is designed for 4 people, it's designed in a very different way. You can never have a fight that has something like a tank swap, for example. You can never have something where one healer's locked away and the other healer's responsible for everything. You can never have fights where you rely on, where you have DPS that, you know, are placed into a mechanic and the only things left on the boss are the tanks and the healer, unless the DPS requirement's brought down significantly because of those types of mechanics. Whereas with 01, they didn't give a shit about all that. They designed it for 8 people, questionably, and then 4 people found a way to go and do it. It's like how, you know, Bahamut was originally designed for 8 people, and then you have the Paladin who does it solo, and doing it solo has this benefit and that benefit, and you go, oh, why can't they do Savage-style solo content? They have, you just do the old shit, you know? That's pretty much how people challenge themselves when they're looking for something that's out of the box. They look at something that's old, that if they do it with the absolute minimum they think is required to get it done, it all of a sudden becomes a much bigger challenge. Even just looking at our current raid tier, doing all of this stuff in minimum item level significantly increases the challenge, as opposed to just doing it in whatever gear you're actually wearing, or whatever gear you actually have available to yourself, you know, where it gets easier and easier every week because you're more geared for it. It's just the same concept as minimum item level, except your minimum party leveling thing. So I don't feel like watching 4 people do 01 Savage is proof of concept for 4-man Savage content. Because if it was designed for 4 people, it would have worked entirely differently than the way that it did. So I don't really feel like this is the judge. Would I want 4-man more difficult content, though? Yeah, I'm down. If they can get it right, I'm down. All right, question number 11. Hello there, Mr. Happy. Hello. I've got 3 quick questions. How about thee? All right, 3 quick questions. I'm going to take your word on that. 1, so this is something that's been bothering me for a long time. I can't find an answer. Is there more to Hydaelyn, the star planet, than we see on the current world map? Yes. So to the west of Eorzea is the New World, which is regularly drawn parallels to Final Fantasy XI's Vana'diel. The Mammal Jar from there, and they're known to be they're known to come from what is the Far East. Actually, not the Far East, the Near East in Final Fantasy XI in the Empire of Aht-Urgan. There's also Meracidia to the south, and we of course have where Garlemald is. I can never Aldenard? No, Aldenard's where we are. I can never remember the name of the continent that Garlemald sits on. I always forget. We have Authard, we have Aldenard, which is where Eorzea is. Ilsabard, there you go, Ilsabard. I can never remember the name of it for some reason. And then there's one other continent I feel like I'm forgetting. Meracidia, New World. I can't remember. I feel like there's one other one that's slipping my mind. But it'll have to come to me some other time. I feel like it's to the east more. Oh, scroll down a little too much. And yeah, there's more. There's more, though. There's at least 2 continents that I at least can name off the top of my head, but I don't remember if there's something to the east of Authard and Hangashi and all that. But I'm sure I'll remember. Or it'll be in the next lore book, and I'll remember then. 2, about the Domain reconstruction in the future. I saw you talk about this briefly in the last State of the Realm where you mentioned the possibility of Ishgard reconstruction, and I wonder, why don't they make it server-based instead of client-based when we rebuild? As instead of having it be individual, where we trade 20k worth an item, they could raise the weekly turn-ins a lot higher and have the entire server dedicate and build it together. So the main reason for that is a player could come around 2 years from now and never get to experience it. That's the number 1 reason why they probably wouldn't do it that way. So any of the story, the cutscenes from actually building it back, all that's lost to that person because they weren't around. I guess if I were to compare it to something really old school, AQ40 in World of Warcraft had this whole huge world event where everyone's working on building these resources and making this key that this one person's going to get to trade in, or these however many people. And then for 10 hours after that, there's this pouring out of monsters, you know, in the area and in other zones that you're just fighting back until eventually that event ends and anyone who actually has the key built at that point on the server can go and get their mount. But that experience is immediately lost to anyone who comes after those 10 hours after the gate's been opened initially. And that person will never know. So Final Fantasy XIV isn't a lot about it making content that works that way. They want everyone to be able to come in and experience everything brand new. Now they obviously there's things that have already been lost, you know, different seasonal events that don't come back the same the next year, or things like watching Mordona or Idleshire grow over every patch. Players will never get to experience that. They just look the way that they are now, and they don't log in and go, whoa, this is so much different. Look at all this extra stuff and these extra NPCs. And I feel like that's going to be the reason why they would do it individually, unless they made it so even if it's built, you could still contribute and get the cutscenes. They could do that. There's no reason they couldn't do that. Like, they could just say, oh, the ongoing effort, blah, blah, blah thing. They could do that too. That's another perfectly viable alternative that would still keep the cutscenes in, but make it so that it was still a server-wide thing. So it's, you know, there's room for both to work. And 3, about enemy AoE ground targets. There's a lot of different AoE marks in the game, and I wonder, do they have any significant differences? Yes. Different colors and effects inside the AoE, not the shape. There's different AoEs for everything, pretty much. Now, there's not something different, like, for example, an AoE that paralyzes and an AoE that poisons. Those aren't necessarily different. But you can see all the various different AoEs, and again, I think this kind of goes against what your question is. But, you know, the circles with the inside arrows mean stack, or the lines with the inside arrows mean stack. You know, markers over the head, one of them means that there's going to be an AoE around you. One of them could mean there's a split damage target on you. One of them can mean they're debuffing you. There's all sorts of different ones. And then sometimes they use the same one for a different effect. They just want you to know that this means this person doesn't want to be near people, or that person wants to be near people. Same with the tethers. The colors for the tethers generally mean the same thing. Then they just use them differently. Patch versus Turn 11, for example. Those are the same types of tethers used in 2 different ways. But yeah, they all have different meanings, but the more basic things about them, if it's just a really basic AoE, all those AoEs look exactly the same. Question number 12. I got one more question after this. Hi, Hap. Seems like you're a bit scared of my question titles lately. Let me help you get over those with the fear of a recycled question roulette. My take on fractions. You didn't even fix the typo. I mentioned that you spelled it fractions. You just copy and paste. You didn't even... I'm not taking that one. You didn't fix fractions. My take on fractions. 1 over 1 is still 1. Don't divide by 0. Okay, I'm skipping that one. How come this hasn't become a meme yet? And imagining a reason to go to Meracidia. I can imagine a bunch. I'll take the meme one. I don't know how often I died wiped in Alliance normal raids, but on the aggravation, it's just built to kill the ads. I don't understand. Talking about kill the ads, what you say. Listen, killing the ads is not a meme because everyone's genuinely infuriated when nobody attacks ads in anything. Whether it's 4-man, 8-man, 24-man, 144-man. If you're not attacking ads and you're supposed to be, no one wants to meme on that because they're genuinely angry about it the whole time. So that is why that's generally not. Now, the funny thing is, the one time when ads are not supposed to die, that's when they die. So you can't win either way. So you just hate everything, and no one wants to meme about it because they're just angry. All right, this is the final question over on the forums. Hey, Mr. Happy, how are you? I'm doing all right. You're doing all right? I'm doing all right. Hope you're good, at least better than I. Recently, I ignored some warnings my hands are giving me, and I seem I may have irritated some nerves. Ugh. It's fairly limit my gaming for a bit. Hey, you gotta take care of yourself. That's important. 4 questions or talking points I want to throw at you. Feel free to answer or skip if dumb. All right, I'll tell you if they're dumb. Alleviating tank enmity control. So we all know tanks are in limited supply, especially those of us who rely on the duty finder to get into trials, dungeons, other activities. Originally, I was strictly a samurai, but got fed up with those queue times, picked up warrior. I don't heal as much, but I equally play samurai, warrior, 380, 367. Anyways, I noticed a few things that peeve me when I tank. One of them is I'm given a stance and abilities that enhance my ability to keep enemies on me, but I find that there are times where I still must compete with the DPS's damage generating more enmity. I feel like enmity generated strictly through damage needs to be toned down a tad bit. So, the way that it works is there's basically anything that provides a boost in enmity adds a multiplier based on your damage dealt. And so it's calculated based on the number of people who use their normal damaging skills and how much damage they're doing versus the damage that this tank is doing multiplied by a certain amount. Now, if there's an item level discrepancy, that's where you start to see problems like you're describing right here. And it's somewhat fair to say that if I have 405 weapons and you're at 367, even if you try real hard, if I don't pop diversion, I'm probably going to fuck your day. That's probably just going to happen. But that's another thing, especially in dungeons, which you're describing, people don't use diversion or enmity tools at all. They're just lazy. I don't care what their excuse is. That's laziness. That has nothing to do with you. That's on them at that point. Enmity is a party responsibility, and you're doing your part. They need to do their part, and they don't most of the time. So fuck them. But yeah, that's generally why you're seeing what you're seeing right here. Let's see. Okay, yeah, and then you just have a little comment at the end. This one is straightforward. Is there a reason I cannot see my actual critical hit chance or direct hit chance? Man, that question's 5 years old. No, there's no good reason. There's a reason. It's not a good one. And I agree with you. So no, that's the answer. There's no good reason. It just is the way it's described. 3, why do stats on gear flip-flop? I'm referring to individual pieces seemingly having random selected stats. Dude, I feel the same way. I feel like every patch, they literally just like have a button. It's got like, I guess for Monk, it's got crit rate, direct hit rate, determination, skill speed. And they just press a button and it goes, bam, these are your 2 stats. They just slap it on the gear. It doesn't feel like it's thought out at all. I don't actually know if it works that way. I agree to you that it feels that way, though. So I don't know why it's that way. Again, there's no reason. It just is. So these are very easy questions. I don't mind these at all. And 4, 5.0 job changes, the ones for the giggles. If I were to make a bet that Dark Knight are changed to a DPS role, Kappa, how fair are my chances of winning? Don't put your house on that, because you are going to be living in the streets. So hopefully that's a, adequate answer. You threw a Kappa in there, but I'm giving you the real answer. Don't make any serious bet on it. Don't shake on it. Don't put it in paper. In fact, don't even speak of it again. It's not going to go great for you. It's not going to go great. Anyway, that's the last question over on the forums. I'm going to take a couple Twitch questions. I think I've got enough time. I'm a little over my normal Twitch stream time, but whatever. We'll take a few extra minutes and we'll see if there's any good Twitch questions for the YouTube video. So let's get started with that, Twitch. All right, so I got a pretty basic Twitch question. So, Mr. Happy, other than MapleStory 2, what will you be playing coming up? So, yeah, I've been playing a lot of MapleStory 2 this last week. It's been a lot of fun, and I've been battling through the hard mode dungeons and grinding out a bunch of other stuff on the daily. It's nice to have something that's a little bit of a change of pace from 14, especially when I've gotten so much done in 14 over the past 5 years. To have something else where I don't have as much done in it, it's good to have a balance of both so I could bounce back and forth between them. It's why I'm always looking for other MMOs to play, because it is good to have that experience, even if it's just for a little bit of time, even like I did with Final Fantasy XI. I really actually want to play The World Ends With You, although I heard the Switch port is terrible, so I actually don't know if I want to play it anymore. Valkyria Chronicles 4, I want to play. Mega Man 11, I actually want to play. I haven't gotten to play any of this because of MapleStory 2 and 14. What else is there? I'm trying to remember. Spyro's coming out soon. I want to play Spyro. So between being a Crash kid and a Spyro kid on PlayStation, I was more of a Spyro kid. I played the Crash games, but I was more of a Spyro kid. So that's coming up, and I want to play that big time. Holy moly. And other than that, I don't know. I need like a list of games in front of me. Finishing Spider-Man's on the list somewhere, but whether or not that actually happens was me. So is unknown. Red Dead I probably won't spend time with, only because I don't tend to play games like that for YouTube or Twitch. As much as I actually really like the original Red Dead, and I actually like games like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead overall, it just doesn't generally mesh with what I do Twitch and YouTube wise, so it just isn't really on the list most of the time. Yeah, and I don't know. I'd have to look at a list. I mean, Kingdom Hearts is really the next big title I'm looking at playing. That's at least on the top of my head. You know, it's a game I think actually it might have already come out, or it comes out this month. Sinner's Sacrifice for Redemption. It's an indie Dark Souls boss battler style game where your character starts at their strongest point, and as you take on bosses, you have to sacrifice powers in order to actually spawn the boss. I think there's 8 bosses total in the game, unless they've changed it over the last few months. And so, like, for example, one boss, you have to reduce your maximum health. And then your maximum health will be reduced for the rest of the bosses that you're taking on. But if you reach a boss and you go, oh, man, I could really use this maximum health for that boss, you can actually respawn the boss that you gave up your maximum health on to get the maximum health bonus back, and then go and beat the other boss with their sacrifice, and then come back to the other boss. So basically, the goal is to try and find the right boss order for you and what you actually need to get through the boss. And then change up your sacrifices over and over again. So that game I've been looking at and paying attention for a while now, and I forgot that it's actually either coming out. It's either already out or it's about to come out like in a week or two. It should be very soon. It's I don't know. I thought it looked really good. I played it at several gaming events, and I love it every time. The booth is always surrounded. Oh, what was that other game that I got to play? What was it? Indivisible? Was that what it was called? The one that's made by the Skullgirls, people who made Skullgirls. Was it called Indivisible? Somebody in chat, help me out. Someone in Twitch chat, help me out. I can't remember what the hell it's called. Yeah, it was Indivisible. Oh, that game was so good. I played that. That was incredible. I played that at PAX West. I thought it was great. I was in love with it instantly. That's a game that's high on my list whenever that comes out. Devil May Cry 5 is an obvious one. That comes out next year. But yeah, Indivisible, if you're into RPGs and platformers both, play it. Play it. Well, look it up, because Indivisible, it was amazing to play, and I have high hopes for that game. So fingers crossed that that one does well, because I would really love to see more along that line. So Google it. If you haven't seen it, Google it real quick. But yeah, that's what's on my agenda, if I can actually call it an agenda, over the next several months. All right, that one Twitch question is the only one we're going to include. I answered a few other ones, but they were kind of short and sweet answers, so don't need those in the video. But if you'd like to ask a question for Mondays with Mr. Happy, every week on the YouTube video, in the description is a link to the Dream Network forums. You go there and ask your question there. It guarantees that I'll at least see it, and as long as it's an appropriate question, which is anything that's not, you know, don't ask me about, like, inappropriate shit. I don't want to give an example, because then you're going to ask me about it. But don't. So, as long as you don't do that, you're good. I'll answer it. You're good. Or you can show up at the Twitch chat, usually around noon Pacific, anytime like 30 minutes before or within an hour after. It's pretty wide. It's a pretty wide time frame. But if you show up sometime between there, we start answering them on Twitch on Sundays. But anyway, gonna wrap up the YouTube side of things. Twitch, I'll be here for a couple more minutes while I look for someone to host. But thank you, everyone. And again, we had another sponsor come in, by the way, at the end. Alchemy Premium sponsor. He sponsored in the middle of my Q&A, so thank you, Alchemy, for the premium sponsorship right there. But anyway, I will see you, YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, next week for the next episode of Mondays, and on Twitch, I'll see you for a few more minutes. So, see you guys, YouTube. Bye-bye.